Here are my 5 easy tips to become faster as a sim racer. The first tip I'm going to be sharing with you today all comes down to the mental game of managing yourself, managing your emotions, and managing your expectations as well. Much easier said than done. It's very easy to overwork yourself, overdrive the car, and lose a lot of lap time because of those factors. In this example I'm going to share with you right now, I'm going to say that the track has 20 turns and you're 2/10 off the pace. When you come across the start-finish line, you see, wow, I need to find 2/10 of lap time. It can be quite daunting, challenging, and unsettling in many different environments to try and find that time, and can often lead to overdriving and making more mistakes because of that. But if you break it down into manageable bite-sized pieces that you can digest mentally and you can start to process to yourself and give yourself the confidence to go and find that time, it becomes way more manageable to do so. Prime example being, you have 20 turns on a track, you're 2/10 off the pace. Effectively, all you have to do is go and gain 0.010 per corner, and then you found 2/10. It sounds very easy to do that, of course much harder in practice, but having the mentality of breaking it down into bite-sized pieces becomes much more manageable than looking at the overall picture, and it can just be a little bit way to distract yourself. You can lose confidence by looking too much at the lap time, but breaking down the individual segments of the track, apexes, throttle and braking zones for you to digest can be a much more manageable, effective and healthy way to find that lap time. Ultimately though, this is much easier said than done, and managing the mindset and having a good discipline will be key to fully utilizing this rule to keep it in the best way possible to utilize at home. Key point summary of this rule is basically, don't overexert yourself in panicking at the imagination that you have 2 attempts to find over a whole lap time. Break it down into manageable segments for you to digest, and use those segments and those digested ideas and energy to motivate yourself to become a better driver through the areas of the track that you are lacking pace on. Tip number 1 actually leads quite nicely into tip number 2. And that's going to be, don't make huge differences to yourself or the car setup without it being completely necessary in the moment. Something that served me quite well over my career, and something that is really beneficial to the drivers who use this sort of mentality and this outlook as well, is to have marginal gains and have incremental situations get better and better and better and better, rather than looking to swing and try to make huge changes all in one go. Although occasionally we can make a big change to the car setup, our driving style, or the racing lines that we're using out on track, and find massive advantages because of that. And that is fantastic, that is great. But that shouldn't be our default position to go to. Our default position should be having incremental strategies that allow us a consistent ability to continuously grow out on track within ourselves as well. And that can allow you a constant progression month after month, day after day. Key point summary of number 2 is quite simply, don't get distracted by looking at humongous gains that worked on the odd occasion, but focus more to incremental gains that you can repeat day after day after day. If you can improve by 0.010 per day, after a week, that's already going to be nearly a 10th improved, and after a year it's going to be very substantial as well. Of course, easier said than done, and finding 0.010 per day is an unrealistic expectation over the whole course of a year. But over the course of a week, it can be very realistic and rewarding. Over the course of a month, it can be quite defining to your pace, and ultimately can be a good mentality and a good outlook to continuously find those little details that can make all of the difference. Tip number 3 here today is going to be understanding where you're strong and understanding where you're weak as a driver as well. Every single driver, every single driving style, and every single car has a strength and a weakness as well. Very not often, to be honest, do we find the perfect combination to go around the track with. pretty much always in my career, and very, very rarely over the course of racing F1 sim racing, iRacing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, and every other simulator that I've driven on, have I found the perfect setup and the perfect balance to go around the car with every single corner included. More often than not, at least to a 98% guarantee, there's a compromise to be made. In my driving, the car set up as well to maximize the whole lap time potential to get the best possible performance out of the car. We so often think that to go around the track and get pole position, or to win a race, or to do something in a very good way, we have to have perfect circumstances that allow to a perfect lap time. Whereas in fact, 98% of racing is, to be honest, managing those compromises within yourself and in the car to extrapolate the best possible race time or qualifying time out of yourself possible. This might look different in terms of tyre management, setup management, driving style management as well, and trying to fluctuate and improve on every little detail that you can. So a key point summary of this is, I know, for example, that I don't like having a twitchy car. I can deal with a lot of rotation on the car, but I do not want it to be twitchy on the rear axle of the car, especially in the entry turning phase to the corner. A twitchy car on the mid to exit for the corner, I can largely manage, and I can be quite comfortable with this and fight it towards the exit of the corner. But if the car is quite twitchy on the initial entry to the corner, this is a driving style and a car setup style that doesn't really suit me, and I will struggle to maximize the performance of the car. So what I do is I often run a higher front brake bias compared to other people, and that allows me to keep the rear of the car more settled, put more of the front load over the front tires, and generate grip in a different way, and generate lap time potential in a different way comparing to other people. Of course, some setup compromises are often required to maximize this situation, and that might look different in terms of running slightly more front wing to generate more front grip on the front axle to compensate for the fact that I'm running more front brake bias comparing to other people, or it might look slightly different in running a different suspension stiffness or anti-roll bar stiffness. But my key point summary for number 3 here is quite simply, if you're strong in one area of a driver, don't try to reinvent yourself. Don't try to be the strongest in every single area, because that's quite unrealistic. But focus on your strengths, analyze your weaknesses, and try to make yourself as rounded as possible as a driving style, as a person, and a car setup as possible to get to the end of the race as fast as possible. This is going to bring me quite nicely on to point 4. And that's going to be getting as comfortable in your simulator as possible. Whether you're playing on desk, simulator, full motion simulator, any variation of simulator out there, it's all going to apply to you in this situation. Find all the incremental details that can allow you to be as comfortable as possible inside of your simulator. The reason for this is that, let's say for example your legs are not comfortable while you're driving, your brain is going to have to manage the fact that your legs and your muscles and tendons are going to have pressure on them in an uncomfortable way. Whereas your brain could be fully focusing on your brake pressure and managing a 1, 2, 3% difference in the trail braking that you're applying going into the apex. And it might sound like such a small thing, but in the world of esports, the margins are very, very small, and having these little bit of differences and comfortable ability within your simulator will make all of the difference. The difference between locking up on your pole lap, missing the apex, or just finding the ability to do your lap times a bit more consistency will make all of the difference. I can tell an example that I had in 2020 while racing the F1 Esports World Championship. This is when I was with Mercedes and was racing from the factory and racing from home, of course, because of the COVID situation. And I actually got in contact with a company called IndySeat. And we made a full foam seat for me inside of the simulator, exactly the same way that they would design a seat for the real life racing car, like I raced with in Formula Ford, F4 testing as well, but we put it inside of the simulator to get me a bit more comfortable in a situation that I wasn't feeling very comfortable with that simulator with. In a lot of the simulators on the market, to be honest, this is not really 100% necessary because the seats are quite tight around you and do a very good job of supporting the body. But this is just a pure example of the levels of details that I was willing to go into to find those incremental gains to make myself a little bit more comfortable and to allow my mind to focus fully on the driving. Moving on to my final point of the video, and that's going to be having an objective to meet every single time you're on track and every single time that you're setting laps as well. Whether that's going from a 5-lap race with your friends to a competitive practice race ahead of a serious league race. Having an objective to meet will continuously give you the ability and the strive to always improve on the details that previously you might have missed, and in those really critical moments of a serious league race, competitive race, or even in the Formula 1 Sim Racing World Championship, any championship that you're competing in fact, will have that decisive moment that the information that you might have picked up on in practice will make all the difference. It's a technique that I use all the time. Even if I'm doing 5-lap races on my live streams or practicing for competitive races, I will always try to have a pinpoint of information that I'm trying to learn about. Let's say I'm doing 5-lap races online that I've just seen as a casual fun activity. I can always improve on my race starts on different specs of tyres and different conditions, inters, wets, dry, different starting positions, different starting techniques with the amount of throttle, clutch that I might have, the different ERS deployment, how much battery can I save on a lap, how much tyre wear do I have on a lap, and where can I efficiently overtake cars without needing to lose that much time. Where is the dirty air effective? Where is the slipstream effective as well? All of these questions I put through my mind and put through my notes effectively to be learning at the fastest rate possible. So when I do arrive to similar situations in league racing, competitive racing as well, I have the greatest baseline knowledge that I can possibly have to use at my disposal in those critical moments. And this is all about putting myself in the best possible position to have as much information as possible to do my best job possible on the track. And that is where all the difference can be made. And that's to sum up the video as well. You might have noticed a slightly different camera angle with a slightly different lighting. That's quite simply that I have a bit of a technical malfunction when I was recording this point earlier on in the day, and I want the quality for the video to be as high as I can possibly achieve at this very moment in time. So I wanted to refilm the video, even if the angle and even if the camera lighting is not exactly how it was before. I want to make sure that my voice and the way that I describe stuff and what you can see visually is at the best quality I can make right now. So apologies for the slightly different camera angle, for the different lighting, but I wanted to ensure that I can produce the best quality content for you able to learn with at home. With that being said though, I'm launching a brand new coaching service really soon, imminently in fact. I can't quite say the exact date right now, but it's going to be coming very soon, and I'm going to be offering a lot of coaching, a lot of depth of knowledge for you to learn and grow from as well. So with everything being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next episode. So grazie, ciao, bye bye.